On today's episode of Propeller Group's Brew with a View, we're joined by Polman, Group Chief Strategy Officer at independent marketing and media consultancy Ebiquity. Thanks for joining us, Christian.
My pleasure.
What are you having to drink?
I'm going to have a filtered coffee. I've actually ground the coffee this morning. This is an ethically sourced coffee, which I grind in the morning using a Japanese grinder. So it's nice and fresh, and I'll be using just hot water to pour over it, so regular pour over.
And what do you read when having your morning cuppa?
So I usually read, I listen to audio podcasts because I cycle into work every day. So I have to use audio to get caught up on my morning news. I like listening to the Economist Week Ahead, or the Week Ahead, or they have an Economist recap of the editor's picks, which is really fantastic. I also really like HBR IdeaCast. I think they have a really nice sort of recap of some of the insights in the HBR magazine. And one of the other ones I really like is Today in Focus, which is a Guardian podcast, which just really delves into some really lovely political and social issues. I think they do a good job covering that.
So what individual or company do you think is currently stirring things up for the right reasons, and who's in hot water?
Well, there's one that's a little bit of both, but mostly good, which is why I'm going to put them in the doing the right things, and I think that's Nike. I think they've done a really good job in terms of kind of defining their brand in a way that resonates with people. There's sort of a lot of emphasis being placed on making sure that there's a social element to the brand, that it stands for something in the marketplace and is having impact. I think Nike's done a really brilliant job of doing that lately. It has caused some challenges, and if you look at kind of what they're facing in China at the moment, they've got some turbulent waters to navigate. So I think that's where they're potentially in a bit of trouble, but they also are pioneers in that sense, which I think is great. In terms of hot water, I think it's very easy to point to WeWork at the moment. It could be the beginning of a sort of financial crisis of sorts. We'll see, but I think that it's going to be interesting to see where that plays out going forward. Yeah.
And what's the one thing you thought was going to make a splash but hasn't?
I think that, I want to sort of approach that from the position of Ebiquity, if I can, which is that we're an independent marketing and media consultancy, and we work with a lot of brands to drive transparency. I think we've had a lot of great success with brands that are really thinking about this in a progressive way. And I think, our hope is that there's still a lot more action to go. So I think, our view is more to be done, and there's some great opportunities for brands if they really sort of grab the bull by the horns and make sure that they're doing the right things, driving good governance and transparency in how they manage their marketing activities. So that's the one I would point to. And
what's your favorite tech platform or solution at the moment?
I'll answer this in a slightly roundabout way, or if I may kind of dodge that one slightly, if this isn't a cop-out. My view is that there's a lot of technology, and there's a lot of great technology, but I think we've kind of reached the point of technology fatigue in some ways. I think that's true on a personal level. I think that's true in our industry, in the marketing industry. So I'm thinking much more about how do I use technology in a more meaningful way? How do I use it in a way that is more purposeful, allows me to spend more time with my kids, things like that. So I'm actually drawing back from technology a little bit. So that's my answer, if I'm allowed to say that.
Well, Christian, thanks for being on Brew with a View.
My pleasure.